Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Angel, and we're going to be talking about weight loss today. I just wanted you to see my face before we get started. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to be talking about how to lose some weight and what's going on there. So here we go. Get this started. Okay, so the hormone weight connection, balancing hormones naturally to support a healthy weight. And that's what we're looking to do here. So, first off, you need to know that I am not a medical doctor nor a psychiatrist. The views of this workshop are my own. Please don't make any changes to your medications or supplements without talking to your healthcare provider. I'm a healthcare provider, but I'm not your healthcare provider. And these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. So who am I? Well, I am Angel Hill. I have more than 14 years experience in alternative health. I've served more than 7,000 customers in that time frame. If you want to see all my degrees and everything, you look at LinkedIn, but I am a traditional naturopath and I have the online platform Alternative Health with Angel is mine as well. So let's get into this. So when we talk about weight gain, we're not talking about just that weight gain that you see. We're talking about other things that pop up. People will have bloating and constipation, headaches, mood swings, food cravings, insomnia, acne. There are so many things that come into this when we talk about, oh, we're upset that we have weight gain. So we really need to look at that. Now, one of the things I want you to keep in mind as we're going all through this today is that you cannot out exercise or out supplement your health. So all these things I'm going to mention are great and you really need to do them, but food is usually the most important thing. So we're going to talk about that as well today. So food comes first. Now, if you are someone who is not having a bowel movement every day, or your liver is clogged for some reason, you've been told you have fatty liver, something like that, you need to stop here. This is the most important thing before we ever start on anything else. Our drainage pathways, things need ways to get out of our body, right? And going to the bathroom every day, bowel movements every day are one of those biggest things. So when bowel movements stay in us for more than 24 hours, what happens is the toxins in that bowel movement actually leach out through the intestines and go back in and recirculate in your body. Not cool, right? So we want to be going to the bathroom every day and we want your liver nice and clean. If they're not, I can help you with that. But that is something we have to start with before we can do anything else. Now, here are some challenges to weight loss, and there are a lot of them. So, this decline in muscle mass that starts in your 30s. So, we all sometimes think about weight coming back, mid age, but that's not the case anymore. Leptin, which is a hormone, is a challenge. Cortisol, insulin, the metabolic syndrome, thyroid, sex hormones. The way we sleep is a challenge for our weight, and also obesogens, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. So, challenge number one, scarpopenia. That means declining muscle mass. That starts as early as 35. What that does is it increases your insulin resistance in muscles, tissues, and organs. And this is something that we see before you become a diabetic, right? So you have to really be careful about these things. These declining muscle mass actually causes inflammation and breakdown of muscle. I can see this in hair tissue mineral analysis when I do that, and I see it often, unfortunately. And also means a loss of muscle strength. But it also decreases our energy production. It decreases our muscle growth. So if we're having less muscle growth, it makes it even more so. We get ligament and tendon resilience issues when it comes to muscle loss. This is something I have experienced personally. And then glucose metabolism and muscle cells actually goes down. So our body can't accept the sugar that is in our system to help it. So, what are we going to do? Well, one of our solutions is strength training. Strength training shows the most promise in preventing scarpopenia. And we want to do exercise that moves our muscles, like lifting weights or doing push ups can help you do this. You are never too old to gain muscle. We used to think that you could not gain muscle when you got over a certain age. That is not true anymore. But you want to start with small things. Okay. You don't even need to use weights if you don't want to. You can use things around your house. You can use your own body weight, but you definitely want to start doing some sort of strength training immediately. And like I said, don't worry about the gym. Just do whatever you can around your house to start with. There are even websites you can get a hold of me that have free things you can watch on your video to do exercise. So I can get that in touch with you too. Just start. That's the biggest thing is just start. Something else you need to consider is leucine. Leucine is amino acid, and there's something called the leucine threshold. And it means that our body needs about 3 grams of leucine per meal for muscle protein synthesis. So that's a whole lot of protein, right? So leucine's key for repairing and building muscles as it tells the body when to start the muscle protein synthesis. Not all proteins contain leucine, though. So consuming protein sources high in leucine is going to be your best option for building muscle. And we're going to talk about that in just a second here. But this is something that's coming from food. So if we want to exercise, if we want to build those muscles, then we have to give it fuel to build, right? So things with high leucine are going to be like salmon, eggs, nuts, and beef. Good, solid, nutritious foods we want to get into our diet. Another challenge is going to be leptin. So leptin is another hormone that actually decreases our appetite, but if it's not working right, it tells us to keep eating. So it tells us, hey, if the leptin levels are working right, oh, you're full, you don't need to eat anymore. But if they're not working right, we're constantly eating. I really feel like this is something I had issues with at one point in my life. I fixed it, but I used to could just eat and eat and eat and never not be hungry. It turns out that sleep deprivation actually interferes with those leptin levels. So increasing your appetite even when you don't want food is unfortunately one of these challenges when it comes to leptin. Now, your solution, you want to prioritize sleep. You want to have a consistent bedtime. New research is showing that consistency with bedtime is more important than with the time you go to bed. I prefer you go to bed at least by 10 o'clock, though. If you don't, our body is in the process of cleaning itself up at night. And if you're not in bed by 10 o'clock, your body can't do those processes. You also want to cut caffeine out after noon because that, again, is going to get those leptin levels unbalanced for you and make you just starving and wanting more food. And then avoiding food and alcohol when 2 hours of bedtime. That's going to help those leptin hormones work for you as well. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we talk about fasting. Now, another challenge that we have is cortisol. Now, cortisol, a lot of people think of it, it's our energy hormone, right? And it comes from the adrenal glands. So that adrenal hormone is responsible for having this energy to wake up in the morning and get moving. And if we, a lot of you have slept all night and you can't get up in the morning, this is a cortisol issue. A lot of times, cortisol has us hold fat in our bellies too. So that's another way we can tell if we have cortisol issues. Balances energy by knowing which carbs, fats, or proteins to process. That's what cortisol does. When it's released too often, it cannot optimally perform its job. And if it's not released enough, it can't perform its job. But stress is what makes cortisol released so often and not like we want it to. So a solution for that, one of the biggest things, and this seems so simple, but taking 3 deep breaths. And I have a habit. I like to do it when I go to the bathroom every day. So if I'm in the bathroom, I make sure I take 3 deep breaths. For me, I pee a lot, so it's going to do it a lot. But even if you only go to the bathroom 3 times a day when you're at work, it's just good to get that breathing going. So why? Well, what happens is when you take deep breaths, it literally is not possible for our adrenals to push out cortisol because they know that we're working on our stress. So when we take those 3 deep breaths, it helps our adrenals to relax for a second so that we're not having those cortisol spikes. Other things that we can do for stress management, yoga, exercise, like we mentioned before, it doesn't have to be strength training. You could just walk around the block. And we'll talk about more walking around the block in a few minutes as well. We also want to get that good sleep, like we talked about earlier with the leptin. You want to be in bed by 10 o'clock. Consistent bedtimes are really important. Another interesting fact that they've studied is laughter actually helps us with cortisol. So again, it's kind of like those 3 breaths. When we're doing things that are making us laugh, it's hard for our adrenals to push out that cortisol and think we're in stress because it knows we're in a happy state. So we really want to work on our stress. I find this is probably one of the hardest levels when people are trying to lose weight to work on is the stress management. It's really difficult. Something else you can do for cortisol is get electrolytes in your body in the morning. So our adrenals, which produce that cortisol, need sodium and they need it first thing in the morning. And by the way, adrenals need sodium more than any other organ of our body. And so we want to get that in there. But the trick is that these electrolytes, which are magnesium, calcium, sodium, and potassium, they actually spark our hormones and give us more energy and just really help our brain health, improve exercise performance. If you have blood pressure issues, I've had so many clients, they weren't even seeing me for blood pressure issues, and their blood pressure issues got better with electrolytes. It helps with mood issues. It helps us have a strong immune system. So starting with an electrolyte first thing in the morning, you could do like an adrenal cocktail if you wanted to, except no sugar, you could do like water, coconut water, and some salt, or you could do like Ultima's electrolyte that I show here. This one's really popular with my clients because they say it tastes really good. But you want to do some sort of electrolyte to get those minerals in the morning so you can spark plug those hormones to really give you energy and help you lose weight, because you want to balance those hormones. And if they're all over the place, that's not going to help you at all. Now, another challenge is insulin resistance here we're talking about, like we were saying before. So this happens when cells in the muscles, fat, and liver don't respond to insulin. Well, remember when we lose muscle mass, that happens as well. Our muscles quit responding to that insulin. So that's what we're talking about right here. Insulin is a hormone that your pancreas creates, and it's essential for life. We can't live without it. You can't live without your pancreas. So, unfortunately, insulin resistance is at the root of numerous health issues. So, this is something we really want to look at. Now, the only way you're going to know if you're insulin resistant is by doing a fasting insulin test. Most of the time when you go to the doctor, they're checking your glucose, which is where your sugar is right this second, and they're checking your A1C, which tells about what your sugar levels have been for the last 3 months. But fasting insulin actually gives us an idea of where you're at before diabetes. We don't want you to get to diabetes and have to turn it around. We want you to stop before diabetes, right? We want you to be healthy before that ever happens. So research has correlated fasting insulin levels over 7 as being associated with a significant increase in risk of metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. We're going to talk about metabolic syndrome in just a few minutes. But both of these things, if you're at F, fasting insulin levels are high, if you have insulin resistance, which you do if it's over 7, your body is not working at the level it should be. And this is actually something I dealt with 2 years and years and years ago. So these are things that like you have to tackle them one at a time because we have so much stuff coming at us. So what can you do for insulin? One of the biggest things you could do, and if I had a magic wand, I would wave it and everyone would eat protein for their first meal of the day, preferably 15 to 30 grams of protein. And while you're doing it, just go ahead and do it the rest of the day. Do it morning, noon, and night. Protein, first off, it makes us not hungry. It helps that leptin. It makes us not as hungry and provides the food for those muscles, right? It also helps balance the blood sugar, and balancing out that blood sugar is the biggest thing you can do for insulin resistance. Anytime we get an insulin spike, that is causing problems for our body and our brain. It's causing our body to hold on to fat, and it's causing our brain not to work as well. So we want to get that protein in. It's really difficult. So I ask people to start small. Start with those 15 grams, with one meal, then go to 2, then go to 3, and then work your way up to 30 grams. But you can get there. And people are like, oh, that's so much food. But you know what? When you're eating protein, you're not eating sugar and all that stuff that's going to make you sick. Okay. So think about it that way. You also want to stay away from your liquid sugars. Think sweet teas, sodas, ice cream, sports drinks, alcohol. Going to be really careful with those. If you want to have those, make sure to do them with protein again, because that's going to help level them out. Now, are sweetened drinks slowing your metabolism? Absolutely, they are. Right here, we got it in a 12-week study. Overweight and obese people who consume 25% of their calories as fructose sweetened beverages on a weight management diet experience a significant drop in their metabolic rate. That means they're not losing weight. Y'all, this is terrible. And these sweetened drinks have so much sugar in them, you wouldn't believe it. I was looking at a new drink that just came out from a fast food restaurant. I won't name them. It had 200 grams of sugar in it. How are we doing this? It was only like 500 grams of calories. So this is not something you want. You do not want 200 calories of sugar when you're drinking something. Those liquid sugars are just really killing us. Another solution for this insulin resistance that we don't think about much is blue light. So when we're on our phones all the time, right, we're constantly on our phones. They did the study with rats, and rats were exposed to just 1 hour of blue light at night. So all from our phones, the kind of light we get from our screens, right? And insulin levels went up and they ate more sugar just from looking at the blue light, right? Previous research has shown that there's a link between obesity and the amount of artificial light we get at night. So cells in our eyes actually detect that light, and they're sensitive to this, and they tell the brain we must be hungry. We're up at night. There must be some reason why we're doing this. So if you need to use screens, try using an app or a feature that makes the screen less blue. They also make glasses that have blue light in them as well. So I'm not saying you don't have to read your books or look at your phone before you go to bed, but you really want to do something about that blue light because it can really make a difference in your fat without your fat on your body without even thinking about it. It's something we don't think about. So here's the next challenge, right? This metabolic syndrome. And we talked about this earlier. So, to have metabolic syndrome, you have to have three or more of these. Any of these things, by the way, you can have just one, can cause a hormonal imbalance of weight gain. These are all based on women, just so you know. So, if your waist circumference is over 35, if your blood pressure is over 130/80, if you have fasting triglycerides that are over 150, or your fasting HDL is less than 40, or your fasting glucose is over 100. Now, these are all from conventional medical doctors. I would actually add to this if your fasting insulin is over 7, there's an issue as well. So, if you have 3 or more of these, you have what they call metabolic syndrome. And unfortunately, the new research is saying about 85% of Americans have this. So we really want to pay attention to this. So 90% of women by the age of 45 will have at least one biomarker that we just discussed for metabolic syndrome. It's often driven by insulin resistance. Remember earlier we said insulin resistance is kind of that bottom line. And unfortunately, women are more likely than men to be overweight or obese. So not something we want to be proud of. And then more than 84% of women have pre-diabetes and don't even know they have it. And I see that constantly. I'm looking at blood work on my people and I'm like, did you know you have prediabetes? Another thing, not really included weight loss in here, but I'm seeing a lot of people with chronic kidney disease and they don't even know it. So what's happening is your doctors, your conventional doctors are so busy, they don't have time to talk to you about preventive things. They talk to you about, okay, well, now you have diabetes, we're going to give you this medicine. So sometimes you have to come to someone like me who can really look at your numbers and say, okay, you're not in a disease state, but you're about to be there. So let's get you healthy. So we really want to look at that. And it's a failed system. Even though insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and prediabetes play a central role in so many diseases, we don't do much about it. The healthcare system fails to recognize it, properly management. And so earlier I mentioned doctors don't have enough time. They really don't. The other part of it is us. We're the problem. We all want one pill to fix everything, and we don't want to make any changes. We don't want to change our diet. We go, oh, well, I need this treat. I did something good. Or I need that treat because I did something good. That's not going to get us where we want to get. We really have to focus on losing weight. And a lot of people don't like that. And I completely understand. I've actually been fighting doing this webinar for people because I understand this. I understand this people wanting one pill for everything. I've heard this for the last 14 years that I've done what I've done. So you have to be serious if you really want to look at this and get healthy. So we want to look at a hormone-friendly diet. It contains the nutrients to support our hormone production as well as the hormone breakdown when it's no longer needed by the body. So the solution, food comes first, right? We talked about that earlier. You want to eat metabolically healthy food. So 15 to 30 grams of protein in each meal to kickstart that muscle synthesis, the protein synthesis. You want to have things like omega-3. So this sounds like the food we mentioned earlier, right? It's all the same. Metabolically healthy food is good for the leptin. It's good for the insulin. So, there are a lot of diets out there, Whole30, all these kind of things. They're all just bring this good, healthy food into it. So it's not like you're taking food away, because you are taking food away, but you're adding in really good food that's going to keep you full and make you feel good. And that is a real difference. That for me personally was what I really noticed when I started on this journey, I should say, through the years of losing weight. So salmon, sardines, you can take omega-3 supplements if you need to, but it's great if you can get them from your food. Bring in fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi. Last night, I actually had sauerkraut on my salmon and it rocked, y'all. um, Green leafy vegetables, they clean out the bad estrogens. So kale, collard, spinach, they're really good for getting rid of that bad estrogen in your body. And they're really good for giving us nutrients that we need. And our vitamin K, just everything you need. Kale and collards are so good for that. Now, think about non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, asparagus, artichokes. Those are phenomenal for you too. And then plant-based fats. I'm a big avocado person, olive oil, olives, things like that. Those are all really good fats to bring into our body. We're so fat scared that a lot of people don't want to bring those in, but the healthy plant-based fats are really good for us, and our body needs those, especially our brain and our hormones for sure. So here's some examples of some healthy fats. They keep you full. The avocado, sardines, nuts, coconut. Coconut is a great one. Olives, y'all. I use olives as a snack all the time. It says egg yolks here, but I eat the whole egg. You could get some grass-fed butter or ghee. I love ghee. I use ghee a lot. And then seeds. We're going to talk about seeds a little later as well when we're talking about hormones because they're so good for our hormones. Another solution, fasting at night. So a lot of people tell me they don't want to be intermittent fasters. I completely understand that. But you can easily fast 12 hours at night. And that's what our body needs. When it's trying to clean itself out at night, it's not trying to work when food's in there, it's not cleaning itself out. It's digestion takes so much energy, and so does cleaning out our body at night. So if it's working on digesting, it's not cleaning our body. So none of those Nate Light snacks. You don't want to do anything like that. Find 12 hours a day you can fast. So I personally like to eat no later than 6 o'clock at night. And then the next morning, I won't eat breakfast until 6 o'clock. Does that make sense? So there's my 12 hours. Using your bedtime to fast is easiest because you're sleeping, so you don't have to worry about it. If you're someone who gets up in the middle of the night to eat, that is something we need to stop. We get in touch with me. We can figure out ways to help you do that. So there you go. Just fasting at night is a really easy way. It helps our body clean itself up. It helps our hormones take care of themselves and also helps us to not gain weight as much. The next challenge, thyroid hormones. This is probably the biggest one I see in my client with my clients. So the thyroid regulates energy levels, body temperature, metabolism, blood pressure, weight, and heart rate. So many things. But subclinical thyroid disease is widespread. What's subclinical thyroid disease? It's when you don't fit in the box that the doctor gives you. So let's talk about what the doctors do. And we'll move over here to this next one. When doctors check your thyroid, they typically check two components, usually T4 and maybe TSH, right? That is it. If you get out your phone right now, you can take pictures of this, and we got one more slide you can take a picture of what thyroid panels you need to get taken. So not only do you need to get more components taken, you also need to look at them through a functional lens rather than a conventional lens. Because when I look at this, I'm looking for how can I make you help you be the healthiest you can be rather than are you in a disease. And that's what conventional doctors are doing. So you want to make sure that you get the TSH checked, which normally they do. But by the way, this can be normal and a person can still have thyroid imbalance. I see it all the time. You want them to check free T3, free T4, total T4. These are all things that are going to let us know what's going on with your thyroid. Reverse T3 is very important. And it's interesting because I never see it tested unless I test it personally in people. And reverse T3 is where I see a lot of people heading into that hypothyroid. They're right there at it. And this reverse T3 is telling us. But if conventional doctors never look at it, they don't even know that these people are headed right into hyperthyroid. And then you also want to check the antibodies. That's TPO and ATA. If any of these show up with any antibody, that means you have thyroid antibody issues. Okay. So a lot of times they say, oh, well, if you reach 13 or whatever the number is, then that means that you have an antibody issue with your thyroid. No, if you have any antibodies, that means you have an issue going on autoimmune wise with the thyroid. And that changes everything. So that is one of the things that when I'm helping people with their thyroid, we find out if they have any antibodies. And if they do, that requires a different formula than say if we were just dealing strictly with Hashimoto's without the autoimmune component. So this is real important to get tested. I can test this for you. You can get it tested through your doctor and then have me look at it, but this is something you definitely want to deal with. So when we're looking at conventional testing versus functional testing, and it's so important when we're talking about thyroid, the conventional testers, they're looking for disease centered, they're looking to manage a disease, everyone's treated the same. They're looking at as few as markers as possible because they're trying to save on costs because insurance won't pay for it. And they'll say, oh, your numbers look great, nothing wrong. When they're looked at functionally, we're looking for optimal health. We're looking to prevent or reverse disease. We're looking at personalized plans. So if you have autoimmune issues with thyroid and you don't have autoimmune issues with thyroid, those are two different plans, right? Or say someone has an allergy to something that would be in a supplement you would recommend. So you have to be really careful with that. And functionally, I'm looking for a root cause. So there may be something upstream that's causing the thyroid to have issues. There may be something toxic in your environment causing that thyroid to have issues, which we're going to be talking about. So just a different way of looking at things. Now, here is another sex hormone challenge. um, so these levels can control our appetite, sense of fullness, These findings suggest that decreases in sex hormones may cause a significant dysregulation in our appetites. Low testosterone leads to low muscle mass. So, sex hormones play into all of this, but actually, not as much as the ones we talked about before. Cortisol, insulin, and thyroid really have a lot to do with what's going on with our weight. A lot of times, people come to me and they say, "Oh, I have sex hormone issues. My sex hormones are all over the place." You know what? They do usually, but it's because of things upstream that have caused that problem, the cortisol, the insulin, the thyroid. Once we get those fixed, a lot of times by the time we get to the sex hormones, they're not having any problems anymore. So it's something to think about. Sex hormones definitely cause issues, can cause regulation issues, but we got to look at that upstream, see what's going on as well. So one of the things I like to do for sex hormone issues, though, particularly if you're not having periods like you should be, or you're having painful periods, things like that, is seed cycling. And how that works is basically days 1 to 14 of your cycle, you're going to be doing pumpkin and flaxseed. And that is to help your estrogen, to support your estrogen. And then days 15 to 28, you're going to be doing sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. Now, this is really easy. You just take a tablespoon of each of them and throw them on food. You can put them in your smoothie. It's all different ways to do this. If you're someone who doesn't have periods, you can do this on the moon, the full moon, or the new moon. That's something you can talk to me about because it's a little bit different, but we can help you with this. But this is really going to help that estrogen and progesterone. And, this is mainly for menstruating women, but I have had a hysterectomy, and this is something that I'm going to consider putting into my diet as well because I really need to focus on supporting my estrogen right now. We talked about the tendon and ligament issue earlier. That is actually one of the things. It goes low muscle mass, but it's also because of our low estrogen. So, seed cycling is a really great non supplemental way to help with a lot of sex hormone issues that could be happening. There's also some solutions if you wanted to take supplements, we can certainly do that. That happens a lot when we get to this level. Um, but again, I like to test, not guess when it comes to this. So get out your phone again. If you're going to do it through blood, these are the markers you want. So total and free testosterone, DHEAS, SHBG, that's sex hormone binding globulin. That's the protein that carries all the hormones through your body. Estradiol, that's E2, and progesterone. So those are the 5 markers you really want to look at when you're looking through blood. Now, you can do hormone testing through urine. That's the Dutch test. You can also do it through saliva. That is through ZRT. Those are things I can do with you as well. But a lot of people, if they're looking for just to kind of get an idea where their blood work is, this is kind of the least expensive way to do it. So a lot of times people will do it that way. So, next thing people don't think about really, and they should, is what is going on with obesogens. So, obesogens are ingested or internalized chemicals that alter our energy metabolism. Okay. They're crap in the environment that's coming at us all the time. Through our skin, through our mouth, through our eyes, everything. Any way anything can get into us. It could be toxins like heavy metals, mold, parasites. It could be food and environmental toxins. The list goes on and on. This is one of the reasons why I do hair tissue mineral analysis with people because we can see the heavy metals that are going on. I have a client right now that's dealing with high mercury. We wouldn't have known that if we hadn't have done some sort of testing to find out. So solution, detox your home. I cannot emphasize this enough. The FDA has prohibited the use of about 30 toxic chemicals in our personal care products. For context, Canada has prohibited about 600 and the European Union about 1,400. Right? We got a problem. There are so many toxins in our personal care products that are keeping us heavy. They're making us gain weight because these toxins in our body, they mimic our hormones and cause problems in the hormones, and they cause our body to hold on to fat because it thinks it's not safe. Anytime our body thinks it's not safe, it's going to hold on to fat. And when there's toxins coming in like that, it's not safe. Our bodies aren't safe. So what can you do? If you don't do anything else after listening to this video, I hope that you get rid of synthetic fragrances. And when I say synthetic fragrances, I mean things that are put into your wall, cleaning products that have scents to them, anything like that. Perfumes that are synthetic, anything with a scent. So what you need to do is next time it's time to give up your cleaning, you're out of your cleaning product, the next time buy a unscented cleaning product. A lot of times people are all worried about getting organic, and if you can afford that, do it. But more importantly, you want to get rid of those synthetic fragrances. They're one of the biggest environmental toxins we've got right now because they're coming at us constantly. If they're in your car, by the way, that's a whole nother thing. Get it out of your car. These things are awful for us. Now, stuff that's a little harder is like kitchen cookware, plastics, organic food, stuff like that. It's expensive to throw out your cookware. So as those things go bad, you can bring in good, green, healthy things, but you want to be careful. Just you don't want to throw out all your cookware at once. That gets too expensive. Something that's kind of easy to do is getting rid of plastics as well. I basically have gone from keeping food in plastic to keeping it in glass. I save the plastic though, and I use it for holding things that are non-food. So we don't want to put all these plastics into our environment, throwing them into the trash and stuff, because that's going to cause problems too. So just find other uses for those plastics. Whenever you can, eat organic food. Think about for food in particular, when you're eating it, if you eat the skin, you probably want it organic. Now that's just kind of a general guideline. You can go to Environmental Working Group. I've got their website down below here, ewg.org. They have websites that will tell you the top 10 foods to get organic, the top 10 foods to get that aren't organic, that don't really bother you because they're not organic. They'll also tell you about all the soaps and shampoos and conditioners and dental products and makeup and everything else that you're putting on your body. They actually use a really used system. They have an app and it's green, yellow, red. So it's really easy to see, is this makeup good for me? Is this soap good for me? And it's stuff you can get at Walmart, Target, easy places. So you're not spending a ton of money, but you can really get stuff that's better on your body. So I highly encourage everyone to go to Environmental Working Group, get their app. It's completely free. And really start looking at these things. And these are, like I said, it's not going to cost you much more to do this. You do it as things go out of your body. Now, water quality is really important. This is something that we're seeing more and more of. Maybe get yourself a water filter. I have one on my shower and the sink that I get water out of. Air quality is another one. Mold is just, if you're living in the South, we just have mold everywhere. So we really have to work with that. And that's one of the things that's one of the programs modules in my program as we work on getting rid of that mold. So toxic environment, they're obesogens. So find one thing on this list. Hopefully it's synthetic fragrances. Get rid of it. Let's start from there and see how we can clean up our environment so we're not getting these obesogens that are making us fat. Now, hormones are complicated. So we've gone over a lot of stuff today. Eating protein for your first meal, getting those electrolytes in, getting a really good check on your thyroid to make sure that it's working right. Working on those obesogens. It's complicated. There's so much. So I can be your guide for this. This is something I've studied. I've worked with thousands of people on. My program, Hormone Heaven, it's called, helps balance your hormone using a signature 6-month program. The testing I use is functional blood chemistry analysis, which I can do through your doctor. We can get it through your insurance. And then hair tissue mineral analysis, which is actually included in your program. And just to remind you, the hair tissue mineral analysis actually checks where your minerals are in your body and also if you have heavy metals. So we're starting at that baseline, we're starting at the root to find out what is going on. And then as you can see here in the framework, my phase 1, we boost your energy. Phase 2, we're balancing that blood sugar. Phase 3, we're expelling those toxins and repairing the gut. Phase 4, we're supporting those thyroid functions. And then finally, phase 5, we're harmonizing those sex hormones. And like I told you, a lot of times when we get through these first 4 pages, this fifth phase, it's good. We don't need it as much anymore. So Hormone Heaven includes text coaching, hair tissue mineral analysis. I personalize everything to you. You get discounted supplements and functional testing, and it all starts for just less than $9 a day. So if this is something you're interested in, you can go to alternativehealthwithangel.com and you can click on work with me and watch my video and see how we can work together. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Alt Health Angel, LinkedIn and Angel Hill D&M. And I also have a free Facebook group called Hormone Heaven where I'm in there once a week giving lives. And I'm also every day updating with fun stuff. So these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. And I hope today that you eat some protein, you watch your sugar levels, and you get those synthetic fragrances out of your body so you can start that weight loss that you really want and live a healthy, happy life. Thanks so much for joining me.